Morning.
Good morning. Nice shirt.
Yes, how are you?
I'm good, Baruch Hashem. How are you?
Now better. I was,
What's wrong? You're
no,
out
I
too
was,
short?
my cold, it seems to
Oh,
now getting under control. Yesterday I was in bed all day.
I
Friday I went early to sleep.
but you were
I,
better last week.
yeah, but I don't know,
Doesn't
my wife caught it also, so I think we were,
giving each other back and forth.
yeah.
All right, Rafu Shlema.
Hmm. Hello?
Good morning.
Nine.
Mm,
Hi. We are on 68B on the bottom. Omer Rabba Toshma, about 10 lines from the bottom. Vim takriv minchas bikurim, b'minchas oimer kosmetaber. It's referring to the oimer. Mehechan ba minas oirim. Comes from barley. At oimer minas oirim el menachitim. Maybe it comes from wheat. But Rabbi Yezer oimer, no. Nemer aviv b'mitzrayim. Aviv means ripe. V'nemer aviv l'doiros. And it says for the minchas oimer, it has to be aviv. Ma aviv amer b'mitzrayim sa'oimer. It refers to the hail that damaged the ripe barley. Av aviv amer l'doros sa'oimer. So when it says aviv, when the minchas oimer, it refers to barley. Rabbi Kiva learns somewhere differently. Rabbi Kiva oimer, matzinu yachid shemevi chayvasu menachitin. When a person has to bring a obligatory mincha, for example, minchas nasachim that has to go along with his korbanos, he has to bring it from wheat. When he brings his wife as a sota, he has to bring also from barley because it's animal food, and she did an animalistic act, or she's alleged to do it. V'tzibor shemevin choyvasa menachitin. We see that the tzibor has a korban that they have to bring obligatorily from wheat, which are the menachos that have to be brought every day along with the various korbanei musaf, and mevin chovasim and and l'chora it refers to the minchas oimer that's brought from the barley, because v'imata oimer ba menachitin. Because if you say the minchas oimer comes from wheat, lo matzinu tzibur shemevi chovasim and asorim, it's the only one that the tzibur would bring from barley. Davar acher, imata oimer ba menachitin. If you're going to tell me that the oimer can be brought from wheat, ein shtei lechem bikurim. The shtei lechem is supposed to be the first korban that you bring that's from wheat from the new chodosh. But if you bring it from the oimer, the shtei lechem is not going to be the first one. The misa the shtei lechem shalok kesidrin sharyan. Now this is going to be a complex analysis here. Normally, the order is the minchas oimer is brought to be matir chodosh for the private individuals, but you still cannot bring chodosh to the Beis Hamikdash as menachos. Then the shtei lechem on Shavuos 49 days later allows you to bring menachos from wheat. But if if you say that the shtei lechem doesn't necessarily have to come in a certain order, and how could that be? That year, perhaps, the oimer was offered from wheat that took root, koidim l'shtei lechem, that took root in the previous year before the shtei lechem, ubasra oimer dishtake, but after the minchas oimer. So you need to wait till the next year's oimer to be matirid. And therefore, shtei lechem mehanech de ashrush, and the shtei lechem is going to be brought from wheat that took root koidim lo oimer dash, prior to this year's oimer, ubasra shtei lechem dishtake, but that was took root between the shtei lechem of last year and the oimer of this year. So therefore, that's another proof that Rabbi Kiva says that the shtei lechem otherwise would not be the first korban of wheat if you allowed the oimer in that case to be of wheat. So therefore, it's a proof that it's of barley. The Gemara doesn't accept that. Mi savrit. Now we're on Samech Tes. Samech 69 now. Mi savrit bikum leperikam rinon. It's not that it allows us to eat the fruit. Lemizbech kamrinan. It means what korban can be offered on the mizbech first. The achal mizbech prepared the hashata. It's already eaten the grain in the minchas ha'omer prior to the shtei lechem. So it'll never be that the shtei lechem, even out of order, would come from wheat. It would be the first one coming from wheat. Now we're going to ask some theoretical questions. Boy, Rabbi Bar Chama. Shtei lechem, hanotza, sharyin, o chanata sharyin. The fruit that are going to be matir by the shtei lechem, does the fruit have to have budding, or they have to have, these are stages in the fruit. Chanata is a later stage. Do we say my hanotza? What is my hanotza? My chanata. Ile ma hanotza de peri. Hanotza is the fruit itself. The chanata. Ile ma hanotza de peri. Chanata de peri. It's both the fruit. Hashta hashrosh shayim. If anything that's taken root already before the shtei lechem is already enough, which is a much earlier stage. Hanotza v'chanota meboy. So there's no question about hanotza v'chanota. El hanotza da'aleh. We're talking about when there's a leaf bud. V'chanota da'aleh. Is it like mihavi ki hashrasha? Is it like grain taking root? And that's the shtei lechem will work on it? Oh no. Or it's not comparable to this rooting. Take. Boy Rav Chana. Chidin shazar b'karka. You had grain and you took kernels of that grain and you planted it in the ground. We'll see exactly what the case was. Does the oimer work on it or not? Hechidami. Ida ashrush. If the wheat has already taken root before the time that the oimer is offered, Tanina, we have a present. And Iloda Ashras, they haven't taken root, Tanina. It's not. If the grain took root before the oimer matirin. The imlav, so then Asur not sheyav oimer haba. If it takes root after this year's oimer, it needs next year's oimer to be matirin. So what question is being asked? This is a separate case. This was wheat that was harvested already, and you took the kernels and you replanted them before the oimer. And then the oimer came when they were in the ground. Can you dig up these kernels and eat them? Because now that the oimer is brought. Now what is this? Do we say, when you harvested the wheat last year and you have kernels, you could have put it in a jar in your kitchen. You certainly could eat that once the oimer was brought. So is it command to shadya kikadadamya, Ushrina oimer, and the oimer is matirit. Oh, dilmo, no. Once you put it in the ground again, batalu l'gabi you start the process again. And you have to wait till next year's oimer. Other issues regarding whether we consider it in the ground or not. Yesh lahen oina o ein lahen oina. There's a concept of oina called you can't price something more than a sixth of what its market value is. Otherwise, you have to return that amount. And we'll see if something's in the ground, there's no oina. It's not metaltalin anymore. Oina only applies to metaltalin. Hechidami. He told the buyer, right? The seller told the buyer, I put 6 kav of wheat into this field. I'm selling you that. Adim came and said he only had put 5. Is that the case of Ano? Anything that is sold according to measure, weight, or number, even if it's less than a sixth, it's a mekach tos. I seeded enough grain into this field that it's going to be a full field. So he didn't mention any number. Adim came and said, no, he didn't put as much of that in there. The shaila is, yesh no? Maybe there is a no. The commander shadi b'chadadamit. Just because he put these wheat kernels in the ground, it's like he put the wheat kernels in a jar. And therefore it's metathlin. And therefore this price fixing plays a role. It's considered like it's in the ground. And there is no no. There's another halachic issue. When somebody says you have a certain thing in your possession and you deny it, and you take a shvua because to claim that I'm telling the truth, you only take a shvua on metathlin, not on something in the ground. So again, you had wheat, you took the kernels, you replanted it. Do we view it as if it's in a jar, and therefore there's no shvua, and there is a shvua, or it's in the ground and there's no shvua, right? Do we say just because he put it in the ground, it's like he's storing it there, like he put it in a jug, and it's considered like karka. All these questions, teku. Boy Rami Bar Chama. A cow ate wheat kernels and didn't digest it. And the wheat kernels come out in the dung. Right? So orange begloli behema mau. What's the din? Now what do you mean? Lamai. Does the wheat kernel, even though it went through the digestive tract whole of this animal, is it considered still oichel? And therefore it can be contaminated with tumas oichlin. So tanina. Chidin shebegloli boker. Wheat that it's in the dung of a cow, so orange begloli beima. If you had machshava lachila, ein metame tumas oichlin. That's not enough. You have to show that you gathered it together. For just having machshava is not enough. Likten lachila, if you gathered it to eat metame tumas oichlin. So we have a baraisa. Rabbi Bar Chama could not be asking about that. El menachos. Can you use such grain to bring a mincha in the Beis Hamikdash? Do we say pshita de lo? If you wouldn't even give a gift to the local politician, would you give it to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? So certainly not. So what's the shaila of Rami Bar Chama? Lo tzricha d'naktinu v'zarinu. You gathered it, and then you planted it. The kaboy lasui menachos minayu. And then the new grain that grows, you want to bring them in mincha. Now, do we say mishum demi ususahu It was found in the dung of animals, so it's mos. But once you plant it and it regrows, it's not mos anymore, and you could bring it. Once it's gone through this process of it went through dung, then you planted it again, it's weak. Harshanami chusha, and it's a bizayon to bring such a korban. Take. Boy Rabbi Barchav. Pil shabola kfifa mitzvah. You had a basket that was woven from palm fronds, and an elephant ate it. V'kiya derech beis rei. It came out of his digestive tract intact, and it was a basket. Ma. Lamai. Now we know that if a kli is tameh, you have to break the kli to break the tumah. So, Tanina, kol hakelim yordim lidei tumasam b'machshava. If you think about a kli, that it should be a kli, it already becomes tumah. Vein oilam tumasal b'shirei, you have to do some kind of shinui to the thing, and this thing didn't, it came out exactly the same. There's no change. So maybe it remains tameh. So what's the shaila? Lo tzricha debala hutzin. The animal ate palm fronds, and in the digestive tract, it turned into a basket. Ve'avdina kfiva mitzri inside. Miyavi equal. Do we say that the palm fronds were digested by the animal's digestive tract? V'havale kekle glolim kekle adama. Therefore, it's like keli made out of dung. Ve'im makabim tuma. Domar mar. Kle avonim kle glolim v'chol adama kle adama ve'im makabim tuma. Lo medivri tov lo medivri sofrim. So if we considered it became dung, then there's no shaila, it would not be makabel tuma. Oidim alavi equal. Just because it went to the digestive tract, it remains palm fronds, and now it came out as a basket. It can be makabel tuma. Tivshot le mehadamer.
Ernie. It's I mean, you have a basket of dung, right?
He ate palm fronds.
Yeah, but then
the palm fronds don't get digested. You know, sometimes you eat corn, it comes out exactly the same.
Yeah, but it comes out of it comes out of, you know where it comes out of.
Yes.
And now you're going to say it's not makabel tuma. It's like a crazy halacha.
I know. And what, the other things we just mentioned are not crazy?
Yeah, no, the elephant is also crazy, but that's makabel tuma, that you understand. This year is not makabel tuma.
No, they're asking. Here's the two sides of the shaila.
Yeah.
When he digests the palm fronds, comes the digestive process, turns it into dung. And we have a Mishnah, klei glolim ein makablim tuma.
Yeah, but I guess that's
or do we say the palm fronds retain their status as palm fronds? And since it came out like a basket, it can be makabel tuma.
I'm just not saying. I'm not asking on the that it can be makabel tuma. I'm asking on that basically. Where does the Mishnah come from? That dung. In other words, how did they learn it out from? Where did they learn that out from? That dung doesn't be makabel tuma.
The Omar Mar, we bring us a memra from Amiroim. Klei avonim, klei glolim. Klei adama ein makablim tuma. We have psukim. It has to be from metal or from stone.
Has to be from a pasuk.
Yeah,
it's very strange. Okay,
but klei glolim and klei adama do not makabel tuma.
Okay.
So tivshet leila me'adamar ula mishum Rav Shimon ben Yotzadak. Maisa uboli ze'evim shnei tunoikos be'ever yardei. Wolves swallowed two infants, nishtogedach, on the other side of the Jordan. And the bodies were excreted by the wolves also intact. They said that the infants are not makabel tumah. They don't convey tumah. Once they went through the digestive system, it no longer. So you see, it becomes dung. And is not makabel tumah. Just so we learn from here that the palm fronds that were swallowed by the elephant also becomes dung. The Gemara says no proof. Shiny basar derachich. You can't bring me a raya from infants because their flesh is very soft, and therefore it could become dung. But the palm fronds are rigid, and they maybe do not become dung. I mi sefer v'timus atzamos. The Chachamim in that case said that the bones were mekabel tuma. I saw that the palm fronds also could become shiny atzomas takushi tfei. The bones are harder than the palm fronds, but the busser of the animals were softer than the palm fronds. So it still remains a shaila according to Rabbi Bar Chama. Boy Rab Zera. Chitin sheyardu ba'avim. You have a tornado or a hurricane that swept up a ship with wheat up into the sky, and then it rained wheat. Mao. Now, lamai. Ilam nachois. Can you use this wheat to bring a mincha? Milo. I mean, what's wrong? There's no tumma, right? There's no bizayon. Remember, we talked about wheat coming through the dung of an animal. So that's a bizayon. But if it comes from shamayim, what's no bizayon? Ella, no, we're not talking about for minchas, no problem. However, lishtei alechem is the problem. My, because it says mimosh seichem, from where you live. Amar Achmana. Lafuke the chutz laaretz the low. You can't use wheat from chutz laaretz. Aval da avim shapir dami, but wheat that came from the clouds is fine. Oy dilma mimosh seichem davka. It's got to be places where you can live, and you can't live in the clouds. Fafil davim namilo. Can you have wheat coming from the sky? Yeah, in. Baradi was an Arab. He said there was a wheat came down that covered like 3 parses area. So it is a case. So again, the Gemara didn't answer it, left it as a teku. Boy Rav Shimon ben Pazi. You have an ear of grain that already grew a third prior to the oimer. The okra, and you pulled it out of the ground. It's got to be in the ground for the oimer to be matured. If it's ripe, the oimer doesn't mature it if you pulled it out too soon. And then you replanted it after the oimer. And it grew. Do we say basar ikar azlinon? We look at the root. Now the new root grew after the oimer. V'shaya oimer, and therefore the oimer permitted it. We look at what's growing after the root. And you need to wait until next year's oimer. Let's answer. You have a young tree before 3 years old, and you graft a branch full of fruit onto an old tree that's 10 years old. Uba peiros. And the branch continues to bring peiros. Afilu hoisiv masayim aser. Even if there's a 200 increase, after you grafted it, it's still aser. We see that it retains the status of the original fruit, no matter how much growth there is. By the way, I once wrote an article with Tzvika about testicular transplantation. There were 2 twins. One twin gave his testicle to the other. And the question was, who is the father? So we wanted to use this as a raya, this sugya, that it's the donor, because you see, it's just like this young tree he retains the owner. It came from that one. So the testis that came from the donor, he should be the father. Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach rejected the svara. He said you can't learn from tree to the human being. It's a good raya. I thought it was a good raya. Anyways, or Rav Asher Weiss showed us that, because Rav Shlomo Zalman was not alive anymore, but Rav Asher Weiss showed us a raya for somewhere else that Rav Shlomo Zalman might not necessarily agree. Anyways,
But by the way, we're compared to trees.
So we use that. We brought that in the tree.
We're in comparison to trees in everything. So
Exactly, but he there's, I don't remember exactly how they upslugged it, but they wanted to say that wasn't a good proof. Most of the poskim agreed with us that the father is the one who gives the dough, because the DNA comes from the one who donates it. It's not, the guy didn't have a testicle in the first place. Now that he has testis, it came from the guy who gave it. It's also common sense that it should be the father. He should be considered the father, because the recipient had no DNA to start with. You planted an onion in a vineyard, and it's now a hybrid, and it's usser. And then you uprooted it, the vines, but the onion is still there. Even if there's a 200 increase in growth, usser. So we don't care about the new growth, we care about the root. So the Gemara rejects the proof. He gufa kama boile. Mifshet pshita l'rabanan, the basar ikar azlinan. In order to determine the fruit, we go after the root. Loshna l'kula v'loshna l'chumra. Or del masfuki masafkalu. Maybe they're in doubt. Ulachumra amrinan, but l'kula lo amrinan. So maybe l'kula, we wouldn't say such a svara. Teku. Okay. We'll stop here. We'll learn again, God willing, Monday.